All right, welcome back to Sunrise. Now, this morning, Carlton is going to help us weigh the pros and the cons of buying or renting. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to the question. Exactly. So let's explore what could be right for you. Carlton, take it away.
Morning, people.
Good morning.
Good morning. Full right now?
Yeah.
Happy this morning now?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Good to be here again this morning. And we're looking at buying or renting, right? I want to get through to that this morning. The reality is, everybody wants a piece of the rock. Everybody wants to own real estate. And speaking of rock, you see what I did there? Jamaica Rock. Last week, when we premiered Corner Office, and we're highlighting small businesses, someone reached out on social media, hey Carlton, I have a small business, I want to send you some shirts so you can wear. And I saw this one, Jamaica Rock. I'm like, ideal for this morning's topic as we jump into owning a piece of the rock. So big up Gifted Hands by Veronica. So we'll jump into it. Rent is always a good way to start. It's okay to start renting, but everybody wants to own real estate. But the reality is, can we own it and want to own it?
I mean,
no.
We're socialized to think that everybody wants it and everybody should.
Exactly.
But like, some people, I'm sure, probably are like, no, I'm good renting. Is that the case?
Which you want to jump into. As you mentioned earlier in the intro, is it right for you? And that is what it comes down to. Because we've all been socialized to think that you must own a house or else you're workless. And that's true. But let's jump into it. What are the pros of renting? Number one, it's a good short-term option. You know, you're just starting life, you want somewhere to live, you may not have the money to purchase. So it's a good short-term option. The deposit that you generally pay is refundable, so that is something that you can look forward to. It is flexible in its location. So you can live in Constant Spring today, you can move to Meadowbrook 2 months' time, you can move to Portmore, St. Catherine, wherever. It's flexible in where you are living. There's no upkeep or maintenance. Your landlord does all of that. And I'm telling you, when it comes to upkeep and maintenance, it costs money. So that's a good benefit to those who are renting, and there's no property tax that you have to pay. Those are some of the easier part of renting. The cons of renting, however, it's difficult now in this market to find a good house in a good location for a good price. It's very difficult right now. The renters market is really literally trash right now. Sometimes you see what you're getting for the price, you're like, what are they really renting? So that's sometimes a challenge in the rental space. The rent that you pay, that investment that you're giving them monthly, you are never getting that back. You're paying rent for 30, 40 years. When you finish moving, it is not your place. That's the landlord's money. So that's a con as well. You're at disposal of the landlord. If the landlord get up tomorrow morning and say, Yendi, I don't want you here again. Dennis, goodbye. Literally.
We're going to do some work on the roof.
Yeah, man, the plumbing wants you in the bathroom.
That's actually a little triggering for me. Because the truth, no, before I live where I live now, which I bought, I was somewhere for 10 years and the roof was leaking and I literally said, there's a leak, can you fix it for me? And he said, here's your notice. And the roof was leaking.
Exactly.
So it's actually, people really do that.
So you're at the disposal of really and truly your landlord. When they want their place, it's time to get on out.
That's right.
And I said earlier, there's no return on your investment. That's over on the rental side. But buying now, you may say, but Carlton, let me buy the house then. And there are benefits to doing that. Number one, it's an asset that appreciates. And you may ask, what does that mean? It increases in value, generally speaking. The property goes up in value, which in turn builds up your equity, which is really and truly what you really own in the property as it relates to the value. So, for example, the property is for $10 million, and you took from the bank $5 million. What's the equity that you have in the property? $5 million, because you owe $10 million. You owe $5 million, sorry, but the value is $10 million. You subtract what you owe from the value, that's what you have. So you can now use that additional $5 million for future investments, or if you sell the property now, you get that $5 million in hand in cash. So you have equity in property, which is a good investment, by the way. Number three, the payment goes towards you owning the property. So versus rent, when you pay that money every single month and you don't own the house, with a mortgage, when you're finished paying after 30 years or 25 years, you own this space and you own the place. And number four, you have a peace of mind. This is home. And generally, which is why you are encouraged to go and buy, because you know this is my house. Even though you owe the bank and you're paying little by little, when you're finished paying, you generally own this space, which is always good. But when should you buy? Is it right for you? Number one, you can only buy a house and should when you can afford a house. And many times we want to own a house and we don't think about what's the mortgage payment going to be, how am I going to make this payment. A good rule of thumb is that you should use 25 to 30% of your gross salary as a mortgage payment and no more than that. So if you earn $100,000, for example, your mortgage shouldn't pass $30,000 maximum. It's a good rule of thumb. But many people do not check on that. You just want a house now, irrespective of the cost. I'm going to buy the house. And that should not be the case. Number two, because interest rates are going up in the market now. That's a con, by the way. Let me just jump back to that. Interest rates now in the market is literally climbing. So you would have taken out a mortgage a year or two ago or 3 years ago. You were paying $40,000 a month at 7%. Rate is now at 9%. That payment is no longer $40,000 a month. It is now $60,000 a month, $65,000 a month. So the cost of home ownership is on the rise, on the rise. So it is important that you check before you go and take out a mortgage. It's so important. And the deposit and fees. When do you buy the house? Do you have your deposit? Generally for a mortgage, you need at least 10% deposit. So the house is $30 million, you need at least $3 million. Then you have fees of about 3 to 4% thereabout. In fees, do you have that money saved? If you don't have access to that money, you're not ready to purchase a house as yet. Even if you feel like you want a house. I know Wayne Marshall has a meme on social media. People normally use it, and you feel for a nice vacation, you feel for,
you
look to the window, you feel. You can't just feel for your house and go buy a house. You need to have these things down pat. And when you have reduced your debts as well, that's when you can take on a mortgage. Because one of the things that we taught earlier about your debt service ratio, you can't take on a mortgage if you already have several debts and several loans. So you must ensure that these loans are going down before you take on the burden, I use the word burden, of a mortgage, because it's really a burden until you are comfortable enough to settle and make your monthly payments.
Awesome.
So I want to encourage persons who are online or watching this morning, if you want to buy a house, these three things: ensure that you can afford the facility, ensure that you have your fees and your deposit down, and ensure that your loans are not too out of affordability range before you take on a mortgage. And think about it, but own something if you definitely can, because it's a good investment. It's a good pension.
Ensure that you like sardine.
And mackerel. I'm telling you, your first year of mortgage payment, you end it. Strongly and tie you up. But we are here this morning. It is crazy.
But let me ask you, you talk about feel for. You feel for some yogurt?
Right now.
Right
feel for some yogurt right now.
Oh, look at
I'll take 2 or 3 of them right now.
There we go.
Songs.
No, we're not.
Finally, I didn't get any fritters on Monday, but big up Pascal, yogurt this morning is in the house. Thanks, guys.
We'll learn from the fritters.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlton. It's always great to have you. So if you decided that buying may be the right option for you, we have our friends at NHT on standby to help us map out the road to home ownership. You don't want to miss this. Please stay with us here on Sunrise.